You are listening to Woodland Walks, a podcast for the Woodland Trust, presented by Adam Shaw. We protect and plant trees for people, for wildlife.
Clare Nasir is the Channel 5 News weather forecaster, and she's worked on lots of different television programmes on GMTV, the BBC and others. She is the author of a couple of children's books, Colin the Cloud and Steve the Stratus, and What Does Rain Smell Like? 100 fascinating questions about the wild ways of the weather. She's also wild about the countryside in which she lives. And she took a socially distanced walk for us through her local woods, which she recorded. But before she did that, she spoke to me on the phone. And I began by asking her what she thought about the way debate has moved on around the issue of climate change.
Interestingly, Adam, when I was studying postgrad in meteorology many moons ago now, climate change was a very small part of meteorology, whereas nowadays they are just hand in hand. And the science has come on leaps and bounds. Trying to get climate change as an item on television when I started on TV back in the late 90s and early 2000s was almost impossible because it wasn't really relevant to our generation. It was about what was going to happen in 50 years or 100 years' time. Now it is relevant. And the other huge step is something called attribution studies, which we look at all the time now. And it's a huge and a very new area of research where you can now relate retrospectively one extreme weather event to see whether it would have happened if there was less carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, hence a lower global temperature. So I'll give you an example. The heat wave of, say, last year was 30 times more likely because of the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And if carbon dioxide levels had been lower, so below, say, 300 parts per million, we would be very, very unlikely to see the extreme temperatures that we saw during that heat wave.
And what difference has lockdown made to you?
I think lockdown has made a huge difference to touching base with nature and being part of it. The lockdown one, I'm very much involved in air pollution campaigning, and in lockdown one I was looking at the levels, and despite the fact that high pressure was so firmly in charge through the spring and early summer, bright sunshine every day, normally that would be associated with smog and high levels of pollution, and it wasn't. And you could hear the sound of nature outside. I live near a flight path, Manchester Airport, and there were no flights. You know, the M6 is about 10 miles away, and for me it was the birds chirping in the morning. Nature really took advantage of such an amazing sort of set of circumstances, unusual. And, you know, during the second lockdown and the third one as well, we step out. I mean, it was snowing just the other day, and just stepping outside and having the sense that you're in the countryside in a proper winter scenario is something which I'm really pleased my daughter has experienced.
Well, you very kindly are about to go on a walk for us. Just tell me a little bit about what we're going to hear.
So the walk is just up the road from where I live. It's Lindow Common. It's a protected area. In fact, Adam, you were the one who told me about that fantastic app where it recognises all types of trees, because my tree recognition is not very good. So thank you for that. And as I was stepping out and walking along this bridle path into this amazing area of woodland as well as peat bog, I saw common oaks, I saw Scots pines. The white beech is a tree that myself and a good friend of mine like to hug. It's an amazing piece. It's a beast which rises right up into the sky. Others, sycamore, holly, a black cottonwood. Now I sound like I know what I'm talking about here, but actually all of these I sort of live and breathe every day now with my daily walk, and it's just beautiful, even in the starkness of the winter.
Well, thank you very much for that, Clare. So let's have a listen to Clare's walk.
Today is Thursday and I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating because today is dry. Yesterday it was so wet, it was so windy, I didn't venture outside. But today I'm just stepping out. Behind me is the small town of Wilmslow in northwest England in Cheshire. Above me I can see blue sky, a very faint winter light, some white clouds drifting across the sky quite quickly. There's a bit of a breeze going on, And I'm walking down a little lane. Either side are trees, winter trees, no leaves on them, or maybe one or two, just the remnants of the autumn, just a dim and distant memory now. Temperature last night dipped around 2 degrees Celsius. There's a few horses in a field to my right, but ahead of me, that's where the magic happens. Myself and my dog are traipsing through a bridle path into Lindow woodland. It's a protected area very close to Wilmslow. It's got woods, it's got a lake, a little fishing lake, peat bogs, and so much more. It holds so many memories for me. It's a beautiful place. We've been up here in Wilmslow for about 7 years now, coming from the big smoke of London. And it was by chance really we bought a house so close to this place, which is just an escape for working at home. In fact, through lockdown, everybody was out in these woods taking their hours exercise. It felt a little bit like the Truman Show, to be honest. Spring 2020, high pressure, lots of sunshine, not a lot of breeze, high temperatures, seeing the same people every day at the same time. Hello, how are you? How's lockdown? Is everyone well? Springtime was an important time for us where we really utilised this amazing space every day. Like everybody else, I spent more time with my daughter and my husband than I had for probably years, and my little dog as well. I've stepped away from the woods now and I'm surrounded by peat. These are the famous peat bogs, and it's a strange sight. The first time I arrived here, I did a photo shoot actually on these levels, and there's different levels. It's been farmed for decades. Farmed for fuel, farmed for garden centres, for soil. Now it's been left to find its own balance again. There are old burnt out trees, roots. The underfoot, it's so boggy. I mean, my dog is white and he's not going to be white for long today because we've had so much rain. But he loves the peat bogs. There's something about the peat bogs where the soil is so soft, so squishy, and he runs and he runs and he jumps and he leaps. And I've got to really love this place. The dark soils are quite sinister. You really feel exposed, that you're walking along and somebody's perhaps even watching you from the woodland. And actually there's a good reason why we should all be celebrating the peatlands of Britain. They are a powerhouse when it comes to sequestering carbon. Tony Juniper wrote about it in his book What Nature Does for Britain. He dedicates a whole chapter 6, to what he calls carbon country. And when it comes to carbon, peat is a big deal. So yes, every time I step onto these soils here and my dog gets really muddy, I'm celebrating the fact that this area has been left alone now. It's no longer being farmed. And even though sometimes when you look at it, you feel that you could be back in the trenches of World War I, it's so quite sinister, the darkness of the soil and the burnt out trees and the trenches at the moment filled with water. But it's doing an incredible job. It's sucking up so much carbon dioxide, and the value that has on society, on us, is, well, it's priceless. So yes, we do have a carbon problem. It's not how much exists on Earth, it's where it's distributed, land, sea, air. Carbon has its rightful place in the land. Soil draws down carbon dioxide, and there's a reason for that. Carbon sustains life. It makes the soil so fertile, microbial life, plant life. It holds water like a sponge. So the service that the peat bogs do and other soils do, that the trees do, is a service to themselves as well as to us. I'm back on the bridle path now, one of my favourite walks. During autumn time, this pathway here was bronze, just covered in autumn leaves. Above me, the boughs hung heavy, laden with stunning colour. Yet now everything is so stark. But there's something about winter I love, something where I just breathe so deeply and feel that time is slowing down. Above me I can still see that sort of dendritic pattern of branches and twigs, and beyond that the sky. I remember my daughter many years ago saying, "Mummy, why is the sky in the trees?" And you really have a sense that yes, everything feels like it's a little bit heavier and quieter, like gravity is pushing everything down, certainly on a day like this where there's no rain. Although the blue sky I saw earlier has now gone, we've had a passing shower, but nothing compared with what we had yesterday or what we're likely to have tomorrow. Passing showers become a bit more persistent now. Yes, it's a bit more wet here in Cheshire yet again. And those puddles are getting bigger and bigger. I can just about see the outline of the sun, hoping that dry window of weather will come this way in spring and summer and even in autumn. Walking through these woods, you can shelter from a light shower. It doesn't really touch you, but this time of year, there's nothing to hold off that water. And these puddles are just getting bigger and bigger. In terms of climate change, we discuss regularly the fact that our winters are going to be milder and wetter. And the evidence is just here all around me. As I'm just walking up this little tiny hill here, to the left I can see a gully of water, roots exposed. Even the mighty beaches are laid bare and vulnerable to the action of heavy rain and too much rain in one area for one time. The land hasn't really had time to recover, and that was the case last autumn 2019, and it's been the case yet again this season and last season. And you know, we can see the effects of climate change just pretty much everywhere, from the heat and the drought earlier this year to then the swinging of the pendulum as extreme but the other way. And that's what worries me really. There is a lot of resilience when it comes to these stunning woodlands sitting alongside the peat bogs which absorb so much water, but nature can only take so much. Yet the sound of rain has its place amongst the ambience of any woodland. And the longer you walk amongst the trees, go deeper into the woodland, maybe more so you become attuned to the vibrations that exist and propagate around you. My favourite book on trees is by Diana Beresford Kruger. It's called The Global Forest. And one chapter she calls Silent Sound, and talks about a symphony of sound going on around us every day. All trees of the global forest produce a fingerprint of sound, she says, and this sound is as individual as the iris to the eye or the thumbprint to the hand. And you just want to grab a tree and hug it, don't you? Peter Wolleben written a book on trees called The Hidden Life of Trees. I've got the illustrated edition. I've also got the audio book. He's based in the Black Forest, I believe, and he lives and breathes these amazing beasts. In one of the chapters, he talks about why do trees live so long, and I love his explanation. Just very succinctly, he writes, trees simply live to be ancient, hundreds, perhaps even thousands of years, almost bypassing evolution. And that's one of the reasons why I love coming to Lindow woodland. It's about slowing down, it's about relishing every moment, about smelling the scent of the forest which changes every day, and just letting myself be a part of something which is so timeless.
Thank you for listening to the Woodland Trust Woodland Walks with Adam Shaw. Join us next month when Adam will be taking another walk in the company of Woodland Trust staff, partners and volunteers. Don't forget to subscribe to the series on iTunes or wherever you're listening to us, and do give us a review and a rating. And why not send us a recording of your favourite woodland walk to be included in a future podcast? Keep it to a maximum of 5 minutes, and please tell us what makes your woodland walk special. Or send us an email with details of your favourite walk and what makes it special to you. Send any audio files to podcast@woodlandtrust.org.uk. We look forward to hearing from you.